Do it.
So up until this point, all of the animations that we've been working on and creating really only exist within After Effects. So what we have to do is we have to go through a process called rendering out a movie. And what that does is it actually does create a movie file that you could post to Vimeo, to Behance, to YouTube or something like that. So this is a technique that we want to use throughout the class this month, and something that you guys are going to be expected to do pretty much from here on out. So with either of these two panels active right here, either the composition panel or the timeline and layers panel down here, we want to go up to the composition pull down menu up here, and we want to come down and we want to choose the option that says add to Media Encoder Q. We're going to use Adobe Media Encoder to create movies from here on out. So when I do that, I actually already had Media Encoder open, and it's going to take just a couple seconds to pop that over into the queue there. I will tell you, if this is the first time that you're opening Media Encoder, it's going to seem like it takes forever. It shouldn't take as long to open it the next time unless you update it again. If it takes a bit of time to get it in there, you might go back and try it again. But every time I do that, I almost always end up with 2 or 3 copies sitting there in my queue. So from within Media Encoder, hopefully it's going to default to the settings that I have right here. Media Encoder is a little scary at first just because it's got a lot of gray. This area up here is the primary area that we're going to be working with as we create movies.
Yes.
So the format we want to use is we want to use an H.264. This is a pretty nice looking file, but it is compressed, so it ends up not being enormous. If you ever needed to change that, you can just click that little pull down right there and choose some other format, but we're going to stick with H.264. Match source adaptive medium bitrate. This is kind of the standard that's going to show up here. At some point, sometime in the future, somebody might tell you to do something different, but we're just going to leave it on that for right now. This part right here is important though. This is where it's actually going to save your movie file. So if you just click somewhere on this little blue title right here where it's listed underneath output file, if you just click right there, you're going to get your file browser here. And I'm just going to drop mine onto my desktop, and I'm just going to leave it called Circus Assets. You guys will need to upload this to prove that you did complete your projects as you work through these. So definitely make sure you name it with your last name, your first name. I'm going to choose desktop, and I'm going to click save. You put yours wherever you want to. And the last thing you're going to need to do is up here in the top right corner of this panel, you're going to hit that little green button right there that says Start Queue. So as it's doing that, you're going to see things down here begin to happen. It's going to say connecting to Dynamic Link Server. And once it does make that connection, it will begin the process of animating, rendering out your movie. One nice thing about Adobe Media Encoder is if you've got a bunch of different things that's going to take some time to render, you can send them all over here, choose all of your settings, get 4 or 5 different things here ready to go, and then you can click Start, and it will go ahead and render each of those individually, move on to the next one, so that you don't actually have to sit there and watch it do it. If you had something really complex, it was going to take an hour or so to render, you can just set it, go to bed, go hang out with your friends, whatever. I'm going to leave Media Encoder open. I'm not going to close it here for myself. And I need to get back to my desktop. So now you guys can see that I have a movie file right here called Circus Assets MP4, and that is the movie that I just created. So if I double click that, full screen it, I'm going to hit play, and you can see we now actually have a movie file of what we just created.